Will Kimbrough, it's March 1st. Do you know where your country is? I have an idea where mine is, and I'm not sure I like it. But hey, I love my people, and I love music, and I'm getting to do lots of work. So that is keeping me personally occupied. We're planning a wedding, things like that. So I wrote a new song the other day when I was in Key West, and I was real happy what happened when I played it, and this is just an ego stroke thing, but we all like that, right? But I opened my show with it, and in the audience were two of the best songwriters I know, Mary Gaucher, whose Rifles and Rosary Beads sessions actually got me started into songwriting with soldiers, not to mention the fact that it's a masterpiece of an album. And Jamie Harris, who is one of our best young singer-songwriters that I've ever been around. And also, they're both dear friends. And they were in the audience, so I just thought, okay, I'm going to play my new song first. And they were both very cool about it. I'll just say that. They were like, we can't believe, they were kind of joking, saying, we hate you because you played your new song and it's good. But anyway, it's good to have good friends, and we had great shows. Of course, the Grammys were great. My Key West shows were sold out. It was amazing. And then I was on the Land Sharks cruise, which is obviously a parrot head themed kind of cruise. And I went to the Western Caribbean and had a blast. Jessica was with me. I got to play with Peter Mayer, Brendan Mayer, the Land Sharks band. Had a blast. So here's my new song. So this is called the Margaret Truman Dropoff Launderette. So that's right up my alley. I've got a song called Wash and Fold. Meet me down at the wash and fold. Let me dance before I get too old. Don't be quiet, baby, don't be cold. Meet me down at the wash and fold. And that's one of my favorites. Personally, I think fans like it too, but I really love it. And so there's a laundromat in Key West called the Margaret Truman Dropoff Launderette. Now, I'm a slow learner, I admit. I've talked about this a lot on my Patreon. I'm quick about some things, and other things, maybe we're all like that. There's the things we're quick about, there's the things we're slow about. And all of it makes us who we are. And sometimes the slowness to understand something is a deeper way to understand it. So I'm just grateful for it all. For years, perhaps decades, I've wanted to write a song about, or just titled, the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. It has a Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. It's got a little cadence to it. So I love that kind of stuff. And so the other day, we were staying at a beautiful house that they provided for us on Margaret Street in Key West. I walked past the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette, and for the first time, how many times have I walked past that corner and knew that I was on Truman Avenue, the corner of Margaret and Truman? I think you see where I'm headed with this. So I realized, I was like, because, listen, Harry Truman was the president after Franklin Delano Roosevelt, right? His wife was named Bess Truman. Their daughter was named Margaret Truman. I always thought, why is there a laundromat in Key West named after Margaret Truman? And it was just the other day, after going to Key West practically several times a year for the last 30 years or more, that I finally realized that the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette was on the corner of Margaret Street and Truman Avenue. I'm a slow learner. But that's okay, because that's when I got my song. And so I just sat there with my little phone, and while Jessica and I were having the wonderful coffee, cafe con leche, iced cafe con leche, no sugar, from Cuban Coffee Queen. My wife swears, and I agree, that your vision improves when you have cafe con leche, no sugar, from Cuban Coffee Queen in Key West. The ice cubes are made of espresso. It literally improves your life every time you have a giant cup of iced cafe con leche, no sugar, Cuban Coffee Queen, Key West. Okay, so I'm just going to play this in G, because that's the people's key, right? Unless you're one of those people that thinks C is the people's key. And I'm going to play it in G. So I wrote these lyrics in my head with a cadence. So, if you're out there trying to find me, since I left my past behind me, at a full sprint, trying not to break a sweat, I'm still mending fences, but I've moved the football inches to the Margaret Truman Dropoff Launderette. So that's nice. Okay. If you're looking for me, since I disappeared out into the world, and a classic place to go when you want to get away, Key West. The tradition, Fred Neil, Jerry Jeff Walker, Jimmy Buffett, on, and countless other people that are down there sitting at, Hemingway's house and imagining themselves as Jimmy Buffett meets Hemingway. And so I just did it. I used to do a gag on stage that said, now I'm going to do the John Prine finger picking pattern. And when there would be like a one smattering of applause, I'd say, now, usually when I play, everybody stands up and cheers for the John Prine finger picking pattern. And sometimes I can get people to stand up and cheer for it. If you're out there trying to find me, since I left my past behind me, at a full sprint trying not to break a sweat, I'm still mending fences, but I moved the football inches to the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. Now I decided to go up to the 4 chord, which would be the C, so I'll walk up. If you sort out my location, now I thought I'd do a little bit of a suspension, like imply the 5 chord over the 4, because it occurred to me, if you sort out my location at the ass end of the nation, promise that you ain't seen nothing yet. Left the hairspray helmet ladies and the lawyers in Mercedes for the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. So I like that. I like it a lot. Next verse. We all might be poor as dirt, steal the back right off your shirt, free from all those mortgages and debts. Here at least we get things clean, I know you know what I mean, at the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. My friend Mike from Louisiana, he don't mind the heat, he learned how to hustle back on Rampart Street, sipping Cuban coffee, smoking cigarettes at the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. Now I see that's so we've left behind the workaday world, so we're not making very much money, so we might be poor as dirt. And that whole phrase, steal the shirt right off your back. I saw that gave me a perfect opportunity to say steal the back right off your shirt. It's also a little nod to the Grateful Dead, steal your face. And then I just wrote, I left the hairspray helmet ladies and the lawyers in Mercedes for the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. I'm happy with it. And then it goes, to my friend Mike from Louisiana. He don't mind the heat. He learned how to hustle back on Rampart Street. So I was going to say Bourbon Street, but I said Rampart Street. I've already got a song about Bourbon Street I wrote with Jimmy Buffett, the University of Bourbon Street. So I thought Rampart, what a great word, Rampart Street. So he learned how to hustle back on Rampart Street, sipping Cuban coffee, so there's a nod to the Cuban Coffee Queen, smoking cigarettes at the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. So everything's about that, getting that rhyme. Mortgages and debts, Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. You ain't seen nothing yet, which is a little bit of a throwaway, but I like it. Okay, so then there's a little instrumental. Yes, all hail the John Prine finger picking pattern. Now, last verse. I was just trying to think of somebody. I've read this author Russell Banks before, and he had a song called, a novel called Continental Drift, and it was all about working class people from New England moving to Florida and really assuming that that's going to just solve all their problems, and of course it doesn't. So I thought of the Northeast, and I came up with Sweet New Jersey Mary moved from Cape May to the Keys. My wife Jessica used to work as a lifeguard at Cape May, New Jersey, one of her summer college jobs. So I'm tying in my own life, words that come to my head. Sweet New Jersey Mary moved from Cape May to the Keys. And I like this. Tired of Yankee manners and that cold Atlantic breeze. So I'm from the deep South. So we like to say we're more polite, and bless your heart and all that good stuff. Southern hospitality. So it's just sort of a playing to a stereotype for fun. I don't necessarily think that Southern people are more polite every day, but I'd say 364 out of 365 days we're more polite than people from Cape May, New Jersey. Sorry, that's my experience. So, Sweet New Jersey Mary moved from Cape May to the Keys. Tired of Yankee manners and that cold Atlantic breeze. She loves old mangy tabby cats and pygmy marmosets and the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. Now that has a meaning. So I knew that I could say pygmy marmosets, and a pygmy marmoset is like a little creature, like a monkey, that's about this big, and it could like hold onto your finger like a little, like if I was a pygmy marmoset and this was my finger, it'd be like, they're like tiny, cute little creatures. When I was raising my children, one of my children got obsessed with pygmy marmosets, and she was showing me a million pictures of pygmy marmosets that were on Instagram when she was a kid. So it also rhymes with Launderette. So she loves old mangy tabby cats and pygmy marmosets and the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. Okay, and so now there's time to walk up. I feel at home at last after a lifetime on the road, drifting ne'er-do-wells who chose to lighten up our loads. We're all drunken poets here, ain't no bros or bachelorettes at the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. At the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. Repeat and end. So I feel at home at last. It could be I feel home at last, or I am home at last. That might be better. I might change that. I feel at home at last. I'm at home. I am home at last after a lifetime on the road. Oh, I could change it to we, because there's drifting ne'er-do-wells who chose to lighten up our loads. Okay. I'm gonna change it to that. So this is one of the reasons you do an anatomy of a song. You do a little anatomy and you realize that you need to change something, We are home at last after a lifetime on the road. Drifting, I could say, I feel home at last. I am home at last after a lifetime on the road. Just drifting ne'er-do-well who chose to lighten up my load. We're all drunken poets here, ain't no bros or bachelorettes at the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. At the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. At the Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. Right on the corner of Truman and Margaret. Also at the corner of Margaret and Truman. That's my anatomy of a song for Margaret Truman Drop-Off Launderette. I just got inspired for about 15 years. And then I finally figured out why it was called the Margaret Truman Launderette. And then that was the day that I wrote the song. Okay. The version I've released this month is kind of like the band Grateful Dead jammy version. I may record a quick acoustic version for you folkies that want to hear sort of the John Prine finger-picking pattern. Okay. Happy March. Hang in there.